My talk this morning is based on Don Miguel Ruiz's book entitled Mastery of Love. And as human beings, we each have a personal dream about life. And each dream is completely different from everyone else's dream. Those who came before us created another dream. And then there is the collective dream of human society, which we call the race consciousness or the race mind. And that is the subjective field where all possibilities of expression exist. It's where the Akashic records are kept. It's where psychics do their reading. And Ernest Holmes calls it a giant hall with picture frames. And when I came to High Desert for the first time, I stayed with Margaret. And in her home, she had one of the frames that Dr. Holmes speaks of. And so I just want to share that with you this morning. I asked Margaret to bring it in from home. And it's a lovely frame. And the pictures keep moving through the frame. So there's a mommy, that's Margaret. Then there's a daddy. And then I was able to learn that she has a daughter and a son. And the son has a girlfriend. And the girlfriend now has a baby. So that's 7 different relationships just within that family. And remember, there are 2,000 thoughts per second. So that adds up to 14,000 thoughts in the midst of that relationship. And Don Miguel Ruiz calls that mitote. When we were in Santa Fe yesterday, we were gifted with entrance to the Contemporary Art Museum. And this piece was there called Meeting of the Minds. And so this is what we do in relationship. We have all these different thoughts that are wandering around. And the good news is that we are only responsible for our part of the relationship. When we begin to think that we need to control the other person's part of the relationship is when we start to get into trouble. We are not responsible for what is inside of someone else's mind. But we are responsible for how we engage in that relationship. Love has no obligations. Fear, on the other hand, is filled with obligations. I remember when I married my second husband, I was beginning to understand the science of mind a little bit better by then. And so I said to him, "You're free to go at any time. And you're also free to stay." And his answer to me was, "Okay, as long as you understand that you're not." So when we believe that we're responsible for the other person, it's really all about controlling the situation. I'll love him if he'll just change to please me. How many of you have been there? Okay, good. The rest of you can go home. This talk is not for you. Don Miguel Ruiz says, when we master love, we align with the spirit of life passing through us. So when we practice unconditional love, we don't do it because of obligation. We do it because we want to, without any expectation that something is going to happen. Whether it does or doesn't, we don't take it personally. So as spiritual beings having a human experience. Irene spoke a little earlier. There are challenges along the way. And sometimes we live in fear because we're afraid of being hurt. But even if it's painful to have an emotional interaction, the instinct to love is so strong that we do it anyways. And sometimes we pay a price for that love. But you know what they say, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So we can talk about it, we can write about it, but love isn't about concepts, it's about action. Ruiz says that in order to protect ourselves from getting hurt, we create what he calls a big denial system. We lie to ourselves, we lie to those around us, we get so caught up in the lies that we believe they are true. And the big denial system becomes like a giant fog. The truth is always there underneath, but it's up to us to clear it out. When we start giving love without worrying about receiving love, the big fog lifts easily and moves right out the door. So how do we do this? Well, there are 3 steps involved with achieving the mastery of love. And the first one is to understand that mastering a relationship is all about us. Even though we are only responsible for half of the relationship, we're still responsible for how we interact with whomever we encounter on this incredible journey called life. So let's imagine that you're living with your perfect partner. You are so happy. Let's compare it to living with your dog or your cat. Your cat will not act like your dog. Your dog will not act like your cat. But don't you love them anyways? When they do something wrong, what do? It doesn't matter, because you love them anyways. They still love you unconditionally. So it's not about us controlling the other person. It's about us respecting them and being there for them, regardless if they are a dog, possibly in the dog house, or a cat. The second step is to become aware of the way you communicate your dream to others. The quality of your communication depends, of course, upon the choices you make. If we shift our focus towards love rather than control, our relationships undoubtedly will be more healthy. And of course, we all know that this is how the power for good in the universe works. It doesn't judge, it doesn't withhold, it simply gives that unconditional love to us. People, on the other hand, have expectations. And those expectations are always changing. And this is the personal use we make of the one mind. And our uniqueness should be acknowledged, respected, and celebrated, not controlled. And the third step is to understand that happiness is the result of love coming out of you. Changing someone else will not make us happy. We either love them the way they are, or we don't. It's not about what we want to see in them. It's about our ability to acknowledge what is right and true for them. To acknowledge and honor their journey, which isn't always easy to do. When we meet someone for the first time, we make an image of that person from our point of view. It's kind of like trying to put a 10 by 12 picture into an 8 by 10 frame. Doesn't always fit. So we try to make them become what we want them to be. And when they meet us, they do the same thing. So we both interpret the relationship through a cloud of our own viewpoint. And then the relationship develops based upon false beliefs. And that leads to suffering and drama. Anybody been there? Which ultimately destroys most relationships. So if someone wants to change you, it simply means you are not what that person wants. Don't take it personally and exit stage left. When we need to change someone, what we really see is a direct reflection of ourselves. There is something there that we need to work on. Don Miguel Ruiz says that when you are aware that no one else can make you happy, and that happiness is the result of your love, this becomes the mastery of the Toltec, the mastery of love. Of love, we have to practice love. And this includes being able to see what is in front of you. My mentor, Dr. Arlene Bump, used to always say, whatever's in front of me is mine to do. So it's not about pretending that something's there that isn't really there. A relationship isn't going to change the person just because you love them. They're still going to be the same person even after you've bribed them to take out the trash. So how do we find our Valentine? Well, we determine what we want, how we want it, and when we want it. We allow each other to be who and what we are. We make agreements that are based on love and respect. We let go of the need to control. That was a big one for me. And we give the gift of unconditional love and support. So happiness can only come from inside of us, and it is the result of our willingness to give unconditional love. Your Valentine is the one who makes your heart sing. It's the person who is in alignment with your beliefs. It's the person who loves you just the way you are. And when we can learn to love that person unconditionally, then that is the right person for us. Be my Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, and namaste.